Hey, horror lovers! Welcome to BitBlitz Horror. Before we dive into tonight's terrifying tale, Pins and Whispers, the Attic's Dark Secret, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more spine-chilling stories. Now, let's explore the dark secrets hiding in the attic. I never believed in the supernatural. Ghosts, demons, curses, they were all just stories to me. That is, until I found that damned doll in the attic. Now, I'm not so sure anymore. My wife Chloe and I had just moved into our new home, an old Victorian in a quiet New England town. We got it for a steal, probably should have been our first warning sign. But we were young and naive, excited to start our life together in our very own house. The previous owners had left the place in a state of disarray. Cobwebs clung to every corner. A thick layer of dust coated every surface. It was going to take some serious elbow grease to make this place livable. "I'll tackle the attic," I told Chloe on our first Saturday in the new house. "You focus on the main floors," she nodded gratefully. Neither of us were looking forward to sorting through decades of accumulated junk left behind by the previous residents. I hauled myself up the creaky stairs to the attic, armed with garbage bags and a dust mask. Sunlight filtered weakly through grimy windows, illuminating swirling motes of dust. Stacks of cardboard boxes and old furniture loomed in the shadows. With a sigh, I got to work. Hours passed as I sorted through piles of moth-eaten clothes, water-damaged books, and broken knickknacks. My back ached and sweat dripped down my face despite the chill in the air. I was about ready to call it quits when I noticed an old steamer trunk tucked away in the far corner. Curious, I made my way over and pried open the rusty latch. The trunk was mostly empty save for a small bundle wrapped in what looked like an old pillowcase. I lifted it out, surprised by how light it was. As I unwrapped the fabric, a chill ran down my spine. It was a doll, about the size of my forearm. But this was no ordinary children's toy. Its body was crudely stitched together from scraps of burlap, stuffed with what looked unsettlingly like human hair. Buttons of mismatched sizes and colors served as its eyes, giving it a crazed, uneven stare. What disturbed me most were the dozens of rusted pins and needles jabbed haphazardly into its body. I knew I should have thrown it away right then and there. But something made me hesitate. Maybe it was morbid curiosity, or maybe it was something darker. Whatever the reason, I ended up tucking the doll into my pocket before heading back downstairs. That night, I tossed and turned, unable to sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw those mismatched button eyes staring back at me. Around 3 a.m., I gave up and went down to the kitchen for a glass of water. As I flicked on the light, my heart nearly stopped. There, propped up against a fruit bowl on the counter, was the doll. I was certain I'd left it in my jacket pocket hanging by the door. "Must be more tired than I thought," I muttered, shaking my head. I grabbed the doll and shoved it in a kitchen drawer before heading back to bed. The next morning over breakfast, I casually asked Chloe, "Hey, did you happen to see that old doll I found in the attic? The creepy one with all the pins in it?" She looked at me quizzically. "What doll? You didn't show me anything like that," I frowned. "Are you sure? I could have sworn I left it on the counter last night." Chloe's brow furrowed with concern. "Honey, are you feeling all right? Maybe all this unpacking is stressing you out." I forced a laugh. "Yeah, you're probably right. Never mind, it's not important." But as the days passed, strange things kept happening. Objects would move when no one was looking. Doors would slam shut on their own. And always, that damn doll would turn up in the most unexpected places. I'd find it perched on the bathroom sink in the morning, or tucked into bed beside me when I woke up in the middle of the night. Once, I even found it sitting in the driver's seat of my car. Each time, Chloe swore she hadn't touched it, hadn't even seen it. I started to doubt my own sanity. Was I sleepwalking? Having some kind of psychotic break? I considered seeing a therapist, but I was afraid they'd think I was crazy. Hell, I was starting to think I was crazy. Things came to a head about 2 weeks after we'd moved in. I woke up in the dead of night to find Chloe's side of the bed empty. Groggy and confused, I stumbled out of the bedroom to look for her. I found her in the kitchen, standing motionless in front of the open refrigerator. The pale light cast eerie shadows across her face. "Chloe?" I called softly. "What are you doing?" She didn't respond. Didn't even blink. As I approached, I noticed something clutched in her hand. My blood ran cold when I realized what it was, the voodoo doll. "Chloe," I said more urgently, reaching out to shake her shoulder. "Chloe, wake up!" The moment my hand touched her, she whirled around. Her eyes were wide and glassy, unfocused. It was like she was looking right through me. "He's coming," she whispered, her voice hoarse and strange. "He's coming and he's angry." Before I could respond, Chloe's eyes rolled back in her head and she collapsed. I barely managed to catch her before she hit the floor. As I cradled her unconscious form, I noticed something that made my skin crawl. The doll was gone. Chloe had no memory of the incident when she woke up. The doctor said it was probably just a case of sleepwalking brought on by the stress of the move. But I knew better. Something was very, very wrong in this house. I became obsessed with the doll, determined to uncover its secrets. I spent hours researching voodoo and folk magic, poring over dusty tomes in the local library. What I discovered chilled me to the bone. The doll was a powerful talisman, created to bind a malevolent spirit. The pins weren't meant to cause harm, they were meant to keep something trapped inside. And I had disturbed it. Armed with this knowledge, I decided to confront whatever force was haunting us. That night, I waited until Chloe was asleep, then made my way to the attic. The air felt thick and heavy as I climbed the stairs, like wading through invisible syrup. My flashlight beam danced erratically across the walls, shadows seeming to move just at the edge of my vision. "I know you're here," I called out, my voice sounding small and frightened in the oppressive silence. "Show yourself!" For a long moment, nothing happened. Then, slowly, a figure began to materialize in the far corner of the attic. It was hazy at first, like heat shimmer on a hot day. But it quickly solidified into the form of a man. He was tall and gaunt, dressed in clothes that looked at least a century out of date. His face was a horror-sunken cheeks, skin stretched tight over prominent bones, and eyes that glowed with an unholy light. "Who are you?" I demanded, fighting to keep my voice steady. "What do you want?" The apparition's mouth stretched into a grotesque parody of a smile. When it spoke, its voice was like gravel scraping against metal. "I am the rightful owner of this house," it rasped. "And you are trespassers." I swallowed hard, my mouth suddenly dry. "We bought this house fair and square. We have every right to be here." The ghost laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "Foolish mortal. This house has been mine for over 100 years. No piece of paper can change that." It took a step towards me, and I instinctively backed away. "Stay back," I warned, though I had no idea how I could possibly threaten a ghost. "Or what?" it sneered. "You'll call the police? Exorcise me? You're powerless here, boy." My back hit the wall. I was trapped. The ghost advanced, its form seeming to grow larger and more menacing with each step. "I'll make you a deal," it said, its voice oily and persuasive. "Leave now. Abandon this house and never return. Do that, and I'll let you and your pretty wife live." For a moment, I was tempted. We could sell the house, move far away, forget this ever happened. But then I thought of all the work we'd put into making this our home. All our dreams for the future. And I knew I couldn't give up without a fight. "No deal," I spat. "This is our home now. You're the one who needs to leave." The ghost's face contorted with rage. "Then you've sealed your fate." It lunged at me, spectral hands reaching for my throat. I closed my eyes, bracing for impact. But instead of ghostly fingers, I felt something small and soft pressed into my palm. My eyes flew open. The ghost was frozen in mid-lunge, a look of shock and fear on its translucent face. And in my hand was the voodoo doll. Instinctively, I knew what I had to do. I grabbed one of the pins sticking out of the doll and plunged it deeper. The ghost howled in agony, its form flickering like a bad TV signal. I twisted the pin, and the apparition's screams grew louder. "No!" it wailed. "You can't do this! I won't go back!" But I didn't stop. One by one, I drove each pin deeper into the doll's fabric body. With each pin, the ghost grew fainter, its cries becoming more desperate. Finally, I grabbed the last pin, a long, wicked-looking needle protruding from the doll's chest. I met the ghost's terrified gaze. "This house is ours now," I said firmly. "And you're not welcome here anymore." With all my strength, I shoved the needle into the hilt. The ghost let out one final, ear-splitting shriek. Its form stretched and distorted, like it was being sucked into an invisible vortex. Then, with a sound like a thunderclap, it vanished. The sudden silence was deafening. I stood there, panting, the doll clutched tightly in my trembling hands. It was over. We were safe, or so I thought. In the days that followed, life seemed to return to normal. The strange occurrences stopped. Chloe and I were able to finish unpacking and start settling into our new home without any supernatural interruptions. But I couldn't shake the feeling that it wasn't really over. Sometimes, late at night, I'd wake up convinced I'd heard whispers coming from the attic. Other times, I'd catch a glimpse of a shadowy figure out of the corner of my eye, only for it to vanish when I turned to look. And the doll, well, I'd hidden it away in a locked box buried deep in the attic. But sometimes I could swear I heard muffled thumping coming from inside, like something trying to get out. I tell myself it's just my imagination, that the ghost is gone for good, that we're safe now. But deep down, I know the truth. You can't destroy evil. You can only contain it. And I pray every night that the container I've used is strong enough to hold it. Because if it's not, God help us all.